Welcome to the first edition. Can we say that? First edition of the new Clock End Talk preview pod. I'm Darren. Obviously, I've been sacked from the main show because I've upset Tony. And that Tez is a cunt. Sorry, that was just one for Tez and Tony, who have just not let me on the main podcast anymore. So this is a preview pod. I'm joined this week by Max. Hello, Max.
Hello, boys. How are you? Nice to be on.
Yeah, good. Max, you do your own podcast, don't you? You're friends with Tez, I guess?
Yeah, Tez has been on my podcast, on the Ask Bros Rankcast, and I've been on Clock End once before with him and Tony. So Tez shot me a message and said, could I come off the bench and give you guys a hand for this new show? And
well,
so naturally...
This does feel like a bit of a bench show, doesn't it? If I've been sacked,
yeah, it does.
The main one,
it does, mate.
And Liam, I believe, Liam, are you with us? Liam? Well, maybe not. And we've also got this week, we've got Paul. Hello, Paul.
How you doing, Darren? You all right?
Yeah, good. Now, Paul is our guest Fulham fan for today's podcast. He might be only on for the first 15, 20 minutes, depends if he gets bored with us talking about Arsenal. Welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, and Liam, are you with us?
I am at the moment, but
there he is.
Sorry. Let's see if I can keep my internet stable for 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay. I've got quite an international cast today because Paul, you live in Spain, aren't you? Max, you're in Australia, and Liam's in the Netherlands, I believe. And of course, I'm holding it all together here in the UK. So, we got Paul on today because this is a Fulham podcast. Later on in the show, we're going to be doing our season predictions, our lineups for the Fulham game, and looking ahead to what is going to be a marvellous Premier League winning season. I was getting confident this time of the season. I was confident this time last year when Unai Emery was in charge.
I was last year when we played Barnsley and we lost.
So look, we'll start with you. We'll do all the Fulham stuff first if we can. Look, welcome back into the Premier League. Welcome back into the big time.
Thank you, mate. It's good to be back.
Well, look, from what I understand, Paul, you're born in Woolwich, the home of Arsenal Football Club. Most of your family support the Gunners, and yet you have decided to be a Fulham fan. Why the fuck?
That's my dad's fault. My dad, first ever match he went to was a Fulham game. Sort of fell in love with it, the old cottage, and ran right next to the Thames, and just become a Fulham fan. And then I come along and had to follow the family, which has been very interesting because when I started supporting them, was in the old Division 4, which was amazing.
Do you know what? I don't even remember them going down that far. You talk about Craven Cottage. Everyone loves going to Craven Cottage, yeah?
Yeah.
My question to you is, do we love going there because you let in 85 goals last season or the season before last when you were last in the Premier League? Is that why we all like it, because you're rubbish?
Well, I think people like it because it's always entertaining. There's always going to be goals chances and that, but it's a traditional little ground. You don't get many of them nowadays in England. Especially the way that you are sat right next to the Thames is fantastic.
It is the most beautiful ground. It's a proper beautiful ground. For those of you who don't know, Craven Cottage is just across the River Thames from Chelsea. And I don't know, 30 years ago, they were both small grounds. Fulham was a beautiful ground overlooking the Thames, and Chelsea was an absolute shithole, wasn't it? Chelsea was, you go to Chelsea, standing there.
I love watching football at Fulham. I love watching football at Craven Cottage. It was one of my favourite places to watch football in London. And you find as long as you're not stuck behind one of those pillars doing this every time the ball goes past.
You can't do that. This is audio only, Max. They can't see that you're leaning to one side. Your face has been replaced by the Clock End Talk logo. Tez doesn't want us to be on live, seeing our pretty pictures. I'm not sure why. I mean, Paul, how do you find that living across the road from Chelsea when they've spent billions of pounds and sort of they are your rivals? How do you look at that across the river?
To be honest, I mean, it is quite frustrating, but I said where I grew up and Fulham was like in the lower leagues. Chelsea were always higher up. So for me, it was mainly Brentford and QPR. I looked at them more as rivals, even though, I mean, obviously we want to get one over on Chelsea, but I mean, the golf in the class of football is completely different. I mean, they've got superstars. We've got basically a championship team at the moment. I mean, it is quite frustrating, but I'd be more annoyed if it was like QPR or if we lost to Brentford in the playoff final. That would have been a lot worse. But for me, I think it's a bit bad for me as well because my wife's a Chelsea fan.
That's divorce material. Mind you, I'm married to a Liverpool fan, so I've had a fucking terrible year.
Yeah, when I told my dad like she was a Chelsea fan, first thing he said before I met her was dumper.
Yeah, good. You should have listened. I'm sure she's lovely. So look, you're in the Championship last year. It must have been a great fun season for you in the Championship.
It was okay, and that's being honest. I mean, like, I saw all of our games and that, but the problem was with the squad that we had, we should have been fighting for first and second with the players that we had. The football we was playing, it was so possession based, but we just moved the ball side to side instead of further up the pitch, and instead of like trying to get teams on the counter attack, we'd let them regroup and then try and break them down by passing football through. And we had arguably some of the fastest players in that league. If we just played counter-attacking football just a little bit, the football would have been better. But I mean, I can't complain. Scott Parker's first year, he got us up. First year in the job, I mean, he done it, but it just could have been just a bit more entertaining.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, last time you come up to the Premier League, you spent over £100 million. You let in 85 goals, had 3 managers, and got relegated. Bit embarrassing, really. What's going to be different this time? I mean, one of the
problems that we had then was that we've got the owner Shahid Khan, who's multi-billionaire, but he's basically gave the club to his son, who basically runs it. And unfortunately, he was in charge of signings. And it sounds stupid, really, but he was looking on like basically something similar to Championship Manager, like the computer game, looking at statistics of players and signing them. Jokanovic didn't really have a say. The only one that he signed that he wanted was Mitrovic. So he signed all these players. People didn't even know what like some of them were. I mean, our club record was Zambo Anguissa. No one ever even heard of him. Never heard of him. And he come in as a club record signing, got injured second game in. But it was just frustrating. And then they sacked him, got Ranieri in. It was even worse. But yeah, I mean, this time he seems to have gave Parker more control. I mean, we've made a few signings, which 2 of them I'm really happy about. But ideally, we need to tighten up in the defence. We're crying out for a centre back for a lead.
We've got 9.
Yeah.
You can have fun about us.
I was saying to Paul back of house, we've got plenty of centre backs for you. Take your pick.
They're all fit, Max.
Yeah.
We've got 9 centre backs.
Ridiculous, isn't it? I'm sure we'll get into that later on about the massive imbalance in our squad.
Yeah. So, Paul, you've come up. Did you keep most of those players, or did you get shut of a few of them, or are you stuck with a high wage bill?
Well, when we went down, we shifted a couple out on loan. Didn't really get rid of anyone. A couple went out on loan, and then we had quite a few loanees anyway. Like we had Andre Schürrle, who was awful. Ryan Babel, who when we signed, it was one of them where you're just like, oh my god, he's so old, ain't going to be very good. But he was arguably one of our best players. The players have come back on loan. Apparently, Siri might be on his way to Inter Milan, but he never seemed to fit in with the team. But I don't know. We're just all over the place at the moment. I mean, we've got one decent forward. That's it. We've got a few decent winners. We've signed Lamina from Southampton on loan and Harrison Reed, who I personally think was our best player last season. But our problem is it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be conceding goals because at the back, centre backs, we've got one decent centre back, and that's Michael Hector.
So
I mean,
what sort of formation are we going to be looking at facing on Saturday?
Well, I think you're either going to be looking at 3-5-2 or 4-4-2. I reckon it'd probably be more 4-4-2, or it'd be 4-4-5-1.
Okay.
Probably against you, it'd be more 4-5-1. When we play the bigger teams, he goes a bit more defensive. But
obviously,
Paul, Championship and Premier League are obviously 2 really different styles of football. You said that you weren't necessarily happy with the way Fulham played in the Championship. Do you think if they come up and they try and play that possession-based football, pretty football style, one, do you think that that's what they'll play in the Premiership? And two, do you think it will be effective?
It won't be effective because we haven't got. I mean, it's different in Championship to the Premier League. We haven't got good enough players to play that kind of football against, I'd say, probably at least 8 teams in the Premier League. I mean, we hang on to a lot of the goals we conceded last year was trying to play this pretty football and giving it away cheaply, and it cost us quite a lot of goals. So I don't. If we try and do that, it's not going to work. I mean, you can do it to a certain extent in the game, but I mean, one of our centre backs was the 5th highest passer in the league, and that's because it just went side to side. I mean, you can't afford to do that. Unfortunately, we've got a bit of pace out wide, and the thing is, if Tom Kearney gets his act together, because he had a bit of a hit and miss year last year, but he can unlock defences. If he gets back to the form which he was a couple of years ago, he's one that can cause damage. But no, we definitely can't play the pretty football and try and play it from the back all the time. It don't work for a lot of teams in the Premier League. I think you've only probably got, I'd say, Man City and Liverpool that have probably perfected it.
The level of the Championship has definitely risen in the last few years, and you've seen that now in the style of football. I think that teams who come up try to play. You see a lot more teams come up and try to play pretty football rather than being the Stokes of the world and sitting deep and taking all that pressure. And I guess for a Fulham team, you've got to be better than 3 other teams in the Premiership. And that's it for you. That's the aim for this season.
To be honest with you, if we finish 17th, I'd be happy. I'd be more than happy with that. Anything above that is a bonus.
So, Paul, when the fixtures came out, I mean, obviously you're back in the big time, back in the Premier League. It's the league that everyone talks about. When you saw you were playing Arsenal, was it that sort of feeling? Great, we're back in the Premier League, we're playing the big boys, or was it fuck? It's Arsenal.
A bit of both, to be honest. At first, you're like, yes, back in the Premier League, fucking hell, it's Arsenal. But then the thing is with you, like you can blow hot and cold. Your defence is a bit all over the place, even though you made signings. But no one really knows how they're going to cut it in the Premier League. And plus, apparently, David Luiz is out injured. So, I mean, I don't know. It's one of them. You look at the big games, and they're the sort of games that you want anyway. So it is quite good. And to get first day of the season, you never know how them sort of games are going to go.
It's, I mean, from an Arsenal point of view, I don't like playing the teams that just come up because they've all come up, playing well. They've all got winning mentalities. They're all, used to success. So for me, Fulham, it's in theory on paper, it's an easy game for us. But, we've just beaten Liverpool twice, Manchester City and Chelsea, and yet we lost at Brighton and we lost at Aston Villa. So, it's one of those, that's the bit that we've got to put right. Do you see yourself staying up? Do you see yourself staying up? Can you think of 3 teams that are worse than you?
My head's telling me yes, my heart's saying not so sure, but I think Brighton's going to struggle.
Yeah, I agree.
I think West Brom are going to struggle.
I was going to say the two that have come up, Leeds and West Brom. Yeah, no, I mean, I thought Leeds were one of the best sides that came to the Emirates last year. We played them in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and they played us off the park for 80 minutes, and we were lucky to beat them, and we did go on to win the trophy. But where do you sit with those two? Are they any good? Are they going to stay up?
The thing is with West Brom, they're not bad, but they're not brilliant. But they could grind out results in the Championship. But then they also had quite a few players on loan which have gone back now. I mean, they signed that Diagana from West Ham, who is a good player, but I don't think they've got enough squad depth to really sort of battle it amongst the best.
Especially this season, I think the games are going to be thick and fast. We're starting late. I think the last time we started the season, I heard a good stat today, which I'm going to have to look up to see who sent it to me. I heard some good stats today. I've been listening to football podcasts all day long today, and I thought I'd be all prepared for this, but I'm not. Max, you got anything else at Fulham or Liam? Liam, we haven't heard from you yet. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still here just listening to you guys because I don't really know a lot about Fulham. I hear you're looking at that goalkeeper, ex-PSG, Areola, was it?
Yeah, we've signed him.
Oh, you have signed him now?
Yeah, we've got him there.
Are you guys sort of happy with that, or what other business have you guys done? Because it seems to have gone a bit under the radar from my perspective, at least. Anyway.
Well, we signed. We've got that Aurelia last night from PSG, the goalkeeper. Today we signed Teti, which is a Dutch international right back from Lyon, and we only paid, I think it was about 3 million for him because he's running down his contract. But he's a good signing for us because that's a position where we've been crying out with since we got promoted last time and Fredericks left to join West Ham. We've also managed to get Harrison Reed, who was on loan from us last year, who, as I said earlier, I thought was absolutely brilliant for us. The midfielder throws himself in front of everything, the sort of player that you need, especially in the Premiership. We've got Lamina on loan, who blew hot and cold for Southampton. So, I mean, speaking to other Fulham fans, no one really knows how that's going to go because he can be absolutely brilliant one game and then go missing for 4. So he's inconsistent. And then we also managed to get a bargain off Wigan. We got Robinson from them for just short of 2 million because they're in liquidation, and that was a good buy for us. So he plays left back and left wing. Better said, I mean, if we don't tighten up the centre back, that's where all our problems are going to come from. But I'm happy so far. But I said centre backs, and we need another forward because Mitrovic gets injured. We haven't got no one that can step in.
Okay, I mean, it seems sensible so far, better than the last time you guys came up. So, I mean, there's plenty of time still left of the window anyway. So, are you guys worried about that at all, or is it a case of when and not if?
Well, as I said, I mean, if we can just get a couple of centre backs and a forward, that will be. We should hopefully be okay because I do think there's 3 worse teams than us. But the thing is, with Fulham, you never know. I mean, we're renowned for having like the longest medicals. I mean, someone turns up at Motspur Park and then 4 days later we announce a signing. It's just like no one understands how long it's been. I mean, we've also apparently signed in Ola Aina from Torino, and he had his medical apparently 2 days ago, and everything's going fine. But we still haven't announced him, and he plays left or right back and left and right wing, which is quite good because you need versatility in a few players. But I don't know. I mean, it is quite important on who we sign, but as I said, we don't want to go down that stupid route like we did last time.
Well, I don't know about you, Max. I don't know about you, Liam, but so far I'm feeling more and more confident now. they need a centre back, so we know we can get rid of at least 2.
Well, you say that, but it kind of also sounds a bit like Arsenal 2.0. Some of the taking 4 days to announce someone after a medical. It sounds like us.
Yeah, that's all right. We just have to drip feed our Twitter feed just to keep the people interested. We're good. Look, Paul.
The thing is with you, you've got so much pace in your team. That's something which we tend to have out wide and up front, but centre mids and our defenders don't really have much pace. So obviously with a Bangmian, it's a bit, oh God.
So Paul, look, let's finish out the Fulham bit. Give us a prediction for the game on Saturday.
Do you want an honest one, or
you can do heart and head?
Heart is saying we're going to win 2-1. Head saying we're going to lose 3-1.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions for Paul, or should I let him go and we can get on with talking about the Arse? Anyone, Max, Liam?
No, good, Paul. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us. And hopefully, when the return fixture is, I meant to look that up as well in my preparation that I haven't done. Maybe we'll get you back on and we'll review where we are. But thanks very much for being the first guest.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on. Enjoy the rest of your show.
I can speak for all of us. We actually hope you stay in the Premier League. You know, I mean, Craven Cottage is a fabulous ground. I hate Chelsea, so anybody else who also hates Chelsea sits with me. So, look, thanks for coming on, Paul, and we'll talk.
You're more than welcome. I said, not just saying it. Most of my family support Arsenal. Pretty much all my friends support Arsenal. When we're not in there, they're the team that I want to win it. So, all the best, except for when you're playing us, and hope you have a great season. I look forward to the return show.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, Paul.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So, welcome to the Arsenal Clock End Talk podcast. Are we all feeling confident? First game of the season, I'm always confident. I've always got this feeling that this is going to be the year. And I've been following this club since 71, so I'm fucking old. And I've been through years and years of wilderness. I've been through years of success. But I'm sitting down looking at the start of this season as excited as I've been for the start of a football season, apart from not being able to go. as I have in any other season. Max, you looking forward to it with the same positivity that I am?
I actually don't have the same palpable positivity as the rest of the Arsenal world seems to have just injected themselves like some kind of new drug. For me, it's very likely we're going to run out with the same 11 or very close to the same 11 that made our worst finish last season. The same issues at centre-back, the same issues in the midfield with the same players, and, the same issues up front. So unless things happen predominantly in the midfield transfer market, which we've been crying out for so long, unless those things do happen, I know that we're linked with a number of players, but I always stand by the fact that I do not give a fuck about who we're linked with. I don't care until there's a picture of them with a shirt and a pen and paper in their hand. So I think that we will improve, but as far as winning the league or anything like that, I think, what we have to look towards this season is that it's season one of maybe a 3 transfer rebuild. And obviously that can all change in the stroke of a pen. Aubameyang signed this morning. That's fantastic. But I've said before, Aubameyang is the icing on top of a cake, and Arsenal have struggled to bake the cake for him to be on top of thus far.
Liam, are you as negative as Max? Can you see past these problems, or are you going into it a little bit more excited than in previous years?
Yeah, definitely more excited than I have been in a while. I wouldn't say I'm nervous for the season coming up, but more sort of trying to anticipate what we're going to do. Are we going to stick with this 3 at the back, or is that going to be, a way we play against big 6 teams? Are we going to see 4-man defences? When Gabriel and Saliba come in, are they going to be the regular centre backs, or there's quite a lot of unanswered questions that I'm almost excited to see what's going to happen, and it's definitely the most excited I've been in a while.
I mean, it's a big question, isn't it? We hear that Arteta likes playing with a back 4, and yet we've got 9 centre halves at the club. I mean, we've got Maitland-Niles one side, or Tierney. You got better in the other side. We've got some natural wing backs in the side. Are we not more suited to playing with a back 5, Max?
Look, I think last season showed that the back 5 gives us a certain degree of security, and I guess the back 5, especially when we play Maitland-Niles on one of those sides, and he comes in to make that additional midfielder. We saw when we moved to that system, it really hid the shortfalls around Granit Xhaka. I think it made Ceballos play better, made Ceballos and Xhaka play better in that partnership. It suits Ainsley Maitland-Niles more. I think Tierney can play either or style. In fact, Tierney, as we've seen, centre-back, left winger, left midfielder. I think he could play Tierney as a striker and a goalkeeper, and he'd probably put in a shift for you there as well. But there has crept into our game now a passiveness to our football, which would go against what we were told or what we believed that Arteta wanted the club to move towards. But the one thing with Arteta I will say is he will play the formation that suits the players, that gets the best out of the players. And again, I think if we get transfers in and he's confident that he can move to a 4-3-3, if we get that midfielder who can break the lines, get up and down, then maybe there's a difference in formation. But this season, I don't want to get caught up in formation so much, because even Arteta said in interviews now, it's not about formations, it's about areas. So if you start off in a particular position, you see Ainsley Maitland-Niles' heat map against Liverpool, he essentially played as an auxiliary midfielder. He very rarely swung into that deep area with them. Arsenal kind of transferring between the 3 at the back in defence and the 4 at the back in offence and all changing. So it's about personnel for me.
Yeah, I mean, so following on from that, I mean, we spoke just before we went live, or I heard you speaking to Paul before we went live, that, everyone's putting their hopes into Saliba and Gabriel as walking into the Premier League, and suddenly they're going to be the best 2 centre halves there, Van Dijk and co. Everything's going to be rosy at the back. But let's just take it for granted just for now. Let's, for the sake of argument, let's take it for granted that those two do settle and play well, and we've spent a lot of money on them. So both come with very good pedigree, although they are very young, very inexperienced in Premier League terms. And we've seen how moving from the French and Spanish leagues, doesn't always work coming straight into the Premier League. However, just for sake of argument, let's say that those two work. Are we just one player away from from a personal point of view? We have failed for the last 10 years to replace your central midfield star, going back from Liam Brady up to Cesc Fabregas, Jack Wilshere to a certain extent, and certainly Santi Cazorla. Since Santi Cazorla have done, we've lacked that central person who can link that defence into attack, somebody who can turn and distribute the ball, somebody who's just so comfortable in possession that you can give it to him in a tight place. And that, I feel, is what we've been missing. Is that just the one key now? If we could find that one player that's if we could get Santi Cazorla back at 25 years old, if we could get Fabregas back at 25 years old, would that be the player that's missing?
Yeah, look, I'd probably urge away from those types of players and stick my mind back towards the Vieiras, the Gilbertos, the Petits. And with that, I don't necessarily talk about the technicality of the players, but the physicality of the players and the athleticism of the players. I think if you looked at Arsenal last year, Xhaka is a fine technical player, but he lacks any form of athleticism. And that lack of athleticism means that the way the team has to be set up around him and the way the midfield partnerships have to be set up around him, it dictates things for Arsenal. The fact that Joe Willock didn't come on the way that we would have hoped Joe Willock would have come on, granted in his rookie season, and no one wants to flush him, but he played lots and lots of games and failed to really grow in the season the same way that a Saka grew in the season, or the same way that a Martinelli grew in the season. So for me, it would be that box-to-box, lung-busting, line-breaking player with those attributes that you talked about, where they're comfortable on the ball and happy to recycle possession. But for me, it's about getting someone with the athleticism to get up the pitch and get back down on the pitch and be able to turn and play both sides of the ball. Essentially a fit Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean, but isn't that an upgrade on Xhaka? And maybe, do you think, is there a hope, maybe bring Liam in? Is there a hope that one of these kids is going to make the breakthrough? Maybe Emil Smith-Rowe, who plays that sort of Ramsey-style play and looks like he's comfortable playing centrally and had a fantastic loan spell at Huddersfield. Are we relying on one of those making the grade and coming through here?
Yeah, with the youngsters, I really wanted to Willock come through for Willock to come through, because I think he's a good talent. I think he does better defensively than most people give him credit for. His finishing leaves a bit to be desired, but he gets in those positions quite well. And another worry I would just to add on to what Max was saying, we need depth, especially this season more than any other as well. And that's a slight cause for concern for me. So where we relied on youngsters in our first team, I think we might rely on them a lot more coming from the bench. And when you come from the...
Don't we have depth, Liam? Sorry to cut over you. Don't we have depth? We've got fucking loads of players. I think
Liam's saying depth in quality, though.
Yeah, but it's quality. Yeah, I mean, it's our first 11. It's that quality. You look at Xhaka, whether it be with Torreira, with Guendouzi, or with Ceballos. None of them have held their place, have they? I mean, there was lots of criticism of Guendouzi. We've got El Neni coming back now and playing friendlies, and everyone's a little bit unexcited by the prospect of him coming back. But there hasn't been anybody. I mean, we're talking about a Vieira or a Petit, but they're upgrades on Xhaka. We wanted somebody there. I mean, if we could upgrade on Xhaka, great. But I think it's the player that plays alongside him that we're just fundamentally missing, that creative genius.
It is about quality and depth. To go slightly back to the point I was making, because the likes of Nelson on the bench didn't excite me. Torreira, I can't really see what he brings. But then, moving it forward, we're going to be upgrading on the likes of Xhaka. But will Xhaka drop out of the team? Not really convinced he will. That's where I see maybe we do move to the traditional 3-man midfield with 4 at the back. it's also like I said a little bit earlier. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but that partly makes this season exciting as well for me, at least anyway. I want to see how this goes, but yeah, depth is my other worry.
So, all right, let's move it on. So we're facing Fulham on Saturday lunchtime, first game of the Premier League. It doesn't seem like we've had, much of a break, really, is it? I mean, the players had a couple of weeks off, then they've gone off for a stupid time to have an international friendly. The players are coming back. It's almost an impossible question, but let's pick our 11s for the Fulham game. I mean, where are we? Let's start with one of the biggest questions. Max, Leno or Martinez?
Look, I think that Arteta, as a more modern coach, will be quite happy to let Leno and Martinez fight it out. Now, Leno's coming back from injury. Martinez has done nothing wrong to lose his position. He's done the opposite of that. He's come in, he's performed to a really high level. So I think it's very likely that he will start Martinez. I think now the way that modern coaches, modern football works is if you get your opportunity to come into a position and you take that opportunity, he'll be in that position until he gives us a reason. Otherwise, look, he's a shiny new toy. I think Arsenal fans need to make sure that they have a slightly longer memory than what they do have. Leno, prior to his injury, was probably Arsenal's player of the season. He'd performed in front of a Unai Emery system which fired about 45 million shots at him per game. We probably saw the best of the Arsenal team as far as Arteta getting his hooks into them while Martinez was in the team. We kind of did quite well as we came out of that lockdown period after Leno got injured. And we haven't yet seen Leno play. People talk about his issues with distribution and stuff but we haven't yet seen Leno play with, I guess, the same sort of structures and the same sort of consistency as what Martinez did. For me, it's Martinez's place to lose now. I still think Leno would be number one keeper. If you asked me to choose between the two, if I had to put one on the sales heap, I'd say Martinez. I think Leno has a high ceiling, but I think Martinez will start. He won't disrupt the team.
What about you, Liam? Are you going for Martinez in goal, or are you going to?
I'm going for Leno in goal, but based purely on one thing. The Independent, just as of within the last hour, have said that we've agreed a deal with Villa to sell Martinez.
Well, that fucks that whole opinion,
your point. Yeah, so
I should have started with Liam, really, shouldn't I?
Sorry, I wanted to get in there, but
breaking news from Liam.
See, I find that if that's true, I find that a very strange decision. I mean, I'm with Max on the fact that I thought that was Leno was excellent player of the season for me, hands down. There was no one could touch him. He was consistent all year long, great shot stopper. There's one or two mistakes that he made, but goalkeepers do. He was getting better at controlling his area. I thought he was good with his distribution. Maybe not as good as Martinez, but he was still good with his distribution. I actually thought he was going to go Leno. When I listened to Arteta talk about the two of them, he talked so strongly about Leno. And I think there's just a question mark over Martinez. Maybe this is just conjecture. Maybe I've just made this up because I've just thought about it. I think there may be a problem with Martinez with the crowd. Some players have been really good when there's not 50,000 people baying at them. And I get the impression, listening to Arteta, every time somebody says Martinez is really good, Arteta sort of goes, yeah, but, take things, when we're back to normal. And he used that a few times, when we get back to normal, when we're back into full. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's something they've seen in his personality. When he's on a training field, he's great. Put him out in front of 60,000 people and maybe he will get a little bit nervous. And these little short passes he's playing out to Holding and to Xhaka in these little circles, with the little triangles, maybe they won't work. Max?
Darren, we made this exact point on the end of season podcast over on the Arse Bros. We had a conversation about this, that you cannot judge Martinez because the pressure that was on him was so limited. Right, you make a mistake in front of no one in the crowd, and the team gets around you and gives you a pat on the arse and says, "Oh, it's okay, keep going, get up." It's very different when you have 50-odd thousand like blood-seeking fans sitting there screaming at you. The media pressure was less than it had ever been before. The crowd pressure was less than it had ever been before. I would even say the internal pressure from your own teammates was less than it's ever been before. I even noticed things like when Lacazette would miss a goal or Aubameyang would miss a goal, it was almost like a training ground with no one there. They'd sort of dust it off and walk away because there wasn't that shame of being in front of all of those fans looking at you. Yeah. So I think it's a very, very solvent point that you make there, Darren. The sample size is very small on Martinelli. The environment around his performance is a factor. And whereas, as we know, Leno did it at a high level in front of multiple teams for multiple coaches at Arsenal and was, going to be Arsenal's player of the season had he not had an injury. So
yeah, but back to when you said you go for Martinez in goal, and I can see that when he played him in the Community Shield, I thought, wow, this manager has given people the chance. If they get their chance in the team and they're good, they stay in. Maitland-Niles has done it. Martinez done it. There's a few people. Martinelli to a certain extent when he came. There's players that he's given a chance to. Xhaka, out the club was on his way out, and then he's given a clean sheet, comes in, plays really well for the last 10-15 games of the season, and now he's ever present. He's probably going to be made club captain again if that could happen. Although Aubameyang signed now, isn't he? So, but with Martinez, he's given him that. I thought the best thing we could have done with this situation where we've got two number ones is actually, if Martinez would agree, is to put him out on loan for a year. Let him play in the Premier League because there'll be a whole host of clubs wanting to take him and put him out for a year. If we don't lose out, then could get a really good loan signing for him, probably get 8 or 9 million as a loan signing on a year because he's a top draw goalkeeper. And then we can have a look in pressure situations as the season gets back and with crowds coming in to see if he's good. And if he's better than Leno, then we've got a real saleable asset at this time next year. I think it'll be a strange thing if we sell him.
If I could jump in on this as well, because I'm a goalkeeper myself, so a bit like Addy on the main side. Yeah, there is the point about the crowd pressure, but goalkeepers, you kind of have to be a bit extroverted if you're going to make it. I can't think of many goalkeepers that I'd look at and go, they're an introvert. So in crowd pressure scenes, I mean, it's easier for me to say than it is to do, of course. I would imagine that they should be able to handle that pressure much better than your average player. The thing that gives me Martinez over Leno, in my opinion at least anyway, is Leno for me is the better shot stopper. So if you asked me who's going to make the match-winning save, I'd pick Leno every time. But the things that win you a game in the Premier League are much more than that. It's how well you deal with crosses, relieve pressure on your team. It's how well you do so many. I can't think off the top of my head. My mind's gone blank. But there's so many things that the goalkeeper has to do in the Premier League, unlike any other league, that wins you a game. And I think Martinez does those better than Leno does. So that's why I would choose Martinez over Leno. I don't think you can send him out on loan either. Sorry, I know I'm rambling a little.
Okay.
I don't think you can send him on loan either, just simply because he's 28 years old. I don't see where the value comes from. And I think if we're either going to keep him or we sell him now while he's got his value.
My thoughts exactly, Liam. He's gone from being worth about £5 million to being worth £25 million in 10 games. If you look at it purely from a business perspective, he could come into the team, Leno could come into the team, Martinelli then disappears out of the picture of our mind in a season. Martinez, in a season, he's then worth £5 or £6 million again. So for Arsenal in our position where we do have so many holes and we do need to refill, for me, if the opportunity is there to sell Martinez and he's jumped up, let's call it 600% in value in a very short amount of time, the business sense, the financial sense makes sense to get him on the market while he's a hot asset and while he's in the shop window, because no one was coming knocking for him before. So
we've sold him to Fulham. Thank you, by the way, Stan said my volume was too low. Hope that's better. So we've sold him to Fulham. So we're all going. So Leno's playing a goal Saturday. Yeah. So we're all agreed Leno.
Yeah.
Let's say we're going to play 5 at the back. So if it's 5 at the back, 3 centre halves. Who are your 3, Max?
So I was reading this morning that the Luiz injury may have been over-reported and that it was a possibility that he's going to play. So I'm going to go with Luiz play, or I'm going to go on that preface based on what I read last. I think it's very, very likely you won't see either of the 2 new boys. I think you're going to see a back 3 of Holding, Luiz and Tierney.
Okay, Liam?
I hadn't heard that Luiz news, so I had thought it'd be Saliba Holding in the middle and Tierney on the left-sided. if Louise can play, I would agree. Holding on the right side, Louise in the middle, and still Tierney the left.
And I would agree with you, Liam, that the guy to come in would be Saliba, considering he's played a game of football for us, albeit a friendly.
I think Tierney on the left-hand side of the three has been a bit of a revelation. You know, it's added to him, and because we bought him as a left back and a left wing back, and now he can play very adequately. You know, he's been really good on that left side of three. Gives us another option. It also gives us an option if we want to go to a back four, we just take one of the three out and move him out to the left-hand side. But I think we will see one of the new boys. Not sure which one. I mean, let's be fair. Although they're young, they're both played a lot of football over the last 2 years. They're both well sought after, top quality players. And although you sort of think you would like to bring them in slowly, why? You know, if you think they're better than Holding, if you think they're better than Mustafi, if you think they're better than the other six that I haven't mentioned, then play him in the team. So I think he will go with Louise, and I think he'll play Tierney on the left of the three, and I think he'll bring in one of those two. Not sure which one. Left-hand side, are we going to go Maitland-Niles?
What did I have down here? Because I think we'll play Tierney. And I think when you play Maitland-Niles in front of Tierney, it allows us to switch between that back four, back three. It allows Tierney to get forward when we're in possession. Ainsley Maitland-Niles pulls into the midfield. So I think from a rotational or a formational perspective, if that's the case, that would make the most sense to me.
Are you with that, Liam? Maitland-Niles?
I'm torn. I think it's 50-50 between him and possibly Saka, just because Maitland-Niles has been away with on England duty. So I wonder if that maybe figures into what Arteta's thinking, but it'll be for sure him or Saka, I think.
I mean, while we're on Maitland-Niles, you know, he's another player that I think when Arteta took over, he was put in the shadows. He wasn't part of the first team thinking at all. We were told there was problems with his attitude. Then over the course of 2 months, he came into the side, became an ever-present, and played in the big games at the end of the season. Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City. He sort of became, you know, he's now like a top left wing back, isn't he? I mean, he can play either side. Would we want to let him go to raise these funds that we need? Max?
Mate, if you go back through my historical podcast opinions on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I've been waxing lyrical about him since before he even made it into the Arsenal first team. I used to watch him in the under-21s when they used to put the under-21 games on the Arsenal app, and you could watch them. So I think he is everything that Arsenal has lacked for 10 years. Big, strong, physical, you know, big ass, backs into players, holds the ball. And I think that the move for him to go further back and be a wing back, you know, I wish someone tapped him on the shoulder a little while ago and said, son, you're not a midfielder, because I think he likes having everything in front of him. I don't think he does particularly well when he gets in that final third. At under 21 level, he scored goals at under 21 level, but it's a different game. It's a different physical game. I'm on record as saying sell them all except for Tierney and AMN.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you on a lot of that, Max, actually. Liam, Bellerin on the right-hand side, or are you going to play Cedric?
I had put Cedric down, but that was purely based on the whether
you've got a team of Cedric,
wait,
Saka,
wait,
and an injured David Luiz, and a goalkeeper who's gone to Aston Villa. Fuck, we're in trouble.
Bear with me. No, I'd only thought Cedric might play just because of this PSG business with Bellerin, but it seems like PSG have dropped that interest now. So yeah, Bellerin would be for me my right wing back.
Guys, I'm still getting messages in that you can't hear me. How's my volume sound to you?
I can hear you absolutely fine.
Sounds perfect.
Guys, let me know. I've turned myself up again. Can you hear me out there? It's 2 people have sent in a message saying they can hardly hear me. Don't know what's going on. Got the lovely, superb microphone. So it makes me sound so sexy, I know. Have they got video? I can't tell.
The dulcet tones of Darren.
Yeah, that's it. So we're just going to have 2 in midfield, I guess. You know, who have we got? You know, we've got Xhaka. And then I guess there's the choice of Ceballos if he's back.
It'll be Ceballos and Xhaka. 100%. It'll be Ceballos and Xhaka. I thought Ceballos would have to go into quarantine, but he's played in a friendly, so obviously that's not the case.
Yeah, apparently, because he's been in a what do they call it, a top class team or a top class situation that he's come from Real Madrid, so he's
his bubble's clean. Don't worry.
Yeah, whereas Gabriel's bubble's a bit dirty. Is that what I understand?
You filthy bubble.
No, that's Socrates.
That's.
Sorry, there's one for the kids. So, all right, so that leaves us with 3 up front. How are we going to go? Liam? So, hang on, let me just guess Liam is going to play. Martinelli, who's injured. Go on, Liam, give me a 3.
I've gone Willian's going to get his start because I think Pepe's not been back too long. That's purely on that. Eddie ahead of Lacazette simply for the same reasons, and not sure if Lacazette maybe is off or not. Not sure where his head's at. And then left wing is the easy one, Aubameyang.
Okay.
Well, Lacazette is definitely off, but more like milk that's been left out of the fridge for too long and has gone lumpy. Front 3 for me, I think it'll be Saka, Eddie, and Oba. So my 11 is essentially last season's 11.
Yeah, I don't see he's going to buy all these players and not play them. Yeah, I mean, I know they've been a lot of time, but Willian's been there for 6 weeks now. I think I agree with Liam. I think Willian will start, but I think he may start on the left. I think he may play Pepe on the right and have Aubameyang down the centre. I think we might start to see that now. You know, I mean, what's the point of buying these players? We're away at Fulham. We've just heard they're a possession-based side. If they try to play football like us, let's put as much attacking talent as we can, you know.
Look, I think that if Aubameyang was going to play in the middle, I think we'd have seen it by now. I think he's proven now that the modern day Premier League style, the modern day Premier League goals are wider. The centre forward's now a harder working position, which is about holding shape, pressing, making sure that you're able to knock off and turn and move on to other people. I think that's why Eddie has come to the fore so much, is just purely because of his work rate and his willingness to keep the shape. I don't think we're ever going to see Aubameyang at centre forward. I don't see why you take a Golden Boot winner who's doing everything he needs to do, and it allows him to be wide. It allows him to ebb and flow in and out of a game, which for a Maverick style player like him actually makes a bit more sense. So at this stage in his career, I actually think that left wing back's where he's going to end up and where he'll stay.
So you're both telling me that Eddie Nketiah is better than Lacazette?
Lacazette from 2 years ago? No, he was
Lacazette from the last 10 games of the season where he scored 3
lumpy milk can jog on. There was something wrong with his attitude all season last season.
Tell me then, Max. Tell me why is Nketiah better? You say he works hard. Lacazette works hard. Lacazette holds the ball up well, and Lacazette scores more goals than Nketiah.
I think if you look at Lacazette from last season, his touch was awful, and there are elements that come into this. So if we look at Lacazette from 2 seasons ago, he was confident. He wasn't going down every time he got touched, every time the wind blew, and putting on his cry face. He has this wonderful cry face, like, why me? Why have I been touched? Why am I here? You know, his attitude just got seeped out of him. It's a far cry from the guy who was getting subbed by Emery and walking off and clapping the crowd and making sure that the team were behind him. You know, I'm on record as saying 2 seasons ago that I thought that Lacazette was a top striker. He was a season away from being a striker, and we should invest behind him. Why Eddie? 2 reasons. Number one, I think when Lacazette's out of the game being asked to play that role, he comes too deep. He compresses already a compressed team. I think when Eddie plays that role, he's a lot more selfless. He's more willing to keep making the undesirable run, the running behind. If you look at some of our goals that we've scored, some of the goals that Aubameyang scores off the left, it actually requires a centre forward making a really unselfish run, because that unselfish run that Eddie might make in to out or out to in is what drags away a centre back. It's what causes the space for the ball to go in the channel. And then, as we know, Aubameyang likes to run into that space and finish. I just think that technically, if you ask me which player is technically a better player on their day, it's Lacazette. If you ask me what player is better suited for this particular system, and I think you can say this about a lot of the Arsenal team and a lot of the selections of the Arsenal team, It's not always the player that has the most skill. It's the player that does the most for the team in that situation. Partnerships, transitions.
Liam, give me a transfer value. Imagine they both had 5 years left on their contract. Give me a transfer value of Lacazette and Nketiah.
Lacazette. Are we talking sort of during pandemic or
now?
Okay, 30 to 35 for Lacazette, maybe. I think we'd try to get close to what we paid, but I think 30, 35.
And Nketiah?
15-ish.
Oh, strange.
15, 20.
You're both very anti Lacazette, but and Max, you just said that Lacazette's. What did you say? He's better than Nketiah at what? Holding the ball.
I think. Well, I mean, it's the Mesut Ozil conundrum, isn't it? If you put up, let's say we did a Tekker's challenge, and we put Mesut Ozil in a Tekker's challenge with all the rest of the midfielders, and we said, who's the best passer in a challenge? Well, it's Mesut. We do a crossbar challenge, it's going to be Mesut. We do keepy uppies, it's going to be Mesut. We do through balls, it's going to be Mesut. You put Mesut in a game, it's like an unflushed shit. So, it's not always about how technical the player is. It's about how they perform, and it's about the body of work that they produced. And Lacazette's body of work from last season isn't on the same level.
We fall into a trap that a player goes out of form for 3 months and he's the worst player in the world, and suddenly everyone's better than him. The season before, it was our player of the season. Towards the end of this season, when he came back into a lot of good form, he was excellent, Lacazette, in the last 3 or 4 games. He really was. He was excellent. He was holding the ball up well. He was putting himself about. He was working his nuts off. He's scoring goals. And yet suddenly, and Eddie comes on, gets sent off in 2 minutes in one game, misses 2 or 3 really good chances in big games when we can put games to bed. And yet suddenly, Nketiah is ahead of Lacazette. Don't see it. I love Eddie. I'm an Arsenal fan. There's not many players I don't like. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. But like you two, I've watched all of the games, and I just don't see how suddenly Lacazette is the worst player in the world and Nketiah is suddenly very good.
Then that should be on Lacazette, Darren. That should be on Lacazette. As the senior player, as the £56 million striker, that should be on Lacazette, that if he is still here and he gets a run, or what he's doing in training, or what he's performing in front of Arteta, he needs to be working hard and saying to Arteta, I am undroppable. I'm better than this kid. I would argue that clearly the selection for Eddie all the time, there's something that we don't see back of house with Lacazette.
Okay, so that's our team for the game on Saturday. After talking to Paul, the Fulham fan who was on at the start, I'm feeling really confident. It sounds like they're a bit underwhelming. Play possession football, hit teams on the break. I mean, that worries me a little bit. But maybe this is a game, 2 footballing sides, and one that we should come out on top on. What's your predictions for the game, Liam?
Before Paul came on, I was thinking, I think we should win it, and I think we probably would by the odd goal, maybe like 2-1 maybe. Now he's come on, I kind of agree with his prediction. I think maybe a 3-1's not too unreasonable. I hate predicting.
Look, I think we've been really solid. Despite everyone, us needing to drag in centre-backs, the centre-backs that we had towards the end of the season actually started to perform quite well. 2-0. 2-0.
Just to say, is it the centre-backs who are performing better, or is it now that we actually have a system that the players are playing in?
It's the system. It's the system.
I mean, that's the difference for me, is that these players haven't become good overnight, but suddenly they know what they're doing. They understand what the manager wants from them. The team know what's needed. So those everyone, the wing backs come back, the attackers come back. It is a team ethic, isn't it? And they all seem to know what they're doing. Rob Holding hasn't suddenly become a great player.
Yeah, it's the Granit Xhaka, system. Was Granit Xhaka a terrible player before? No, the system really, really highlighted his deficiencies. And under a new system, did Granit Xhaka all of a sudden turn into a worldie? No, he just got played in a system that didn't highlight his deficiencies. So he was a 7 out of 10 player, and he performed to his 7 out of 10 status. And that's all about making sure that he's not exposed. And I think that's what Arteta's done with the team. Same with the centre-backs.
Yeah. Okay, Liam, anything to add before we go on to our season predictions?
No, if I'm honest, I think we pretty much covered it all. I can't think of anything else to add, if I'm honest.
Okay, well, look, it is that time where all of us presenters on the Clock End Talk podcast, we've all put in our predictions for the year, and at the end of the year, we can all stand up and say, yes, Darren was the best. He was the smartest. He knows what he's talking about. All the rest of them are idiots. But we have to go through the bit where we now have to actually say those things. Someone's probably recording it and writing it down. So I've just gotten back up here from Tez's message to us. I'm going to start at the end, so we finish up with the Premier League. Premier League. This is, how do we say this? Premier League transfer window winner. How'd you say that? There's a month of the fucking transfer window left to go. Do you know? Aston Villa for signing Martinez. I'd have sent him out on loan. Who do you think, Liam Cummins? You must have written these down. Transfer window winner. I don't know how you can say that. This is crystal ball gate all over again, Liam.
Don't get me started on that again. Yeah, it was so difficult to think. You could probably argue maybe Everton. They've done a pretty good job so far, but I'm not sure what else they'll do. I think Villa have gone under the radar. They've done some decent business so far. Ollie Watkins, if they get Emmy, they've got a good keeper. Yeah, that would be my two that come to mind so far. But God knows
only
what
allowed one.
Oh, fuck.
How can it be a season prediction? I'll tell you what, who's going to win the fucking league? Well, I reckon it's going to be Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal and Tottenham.
All right, Everton.
Max, who's
I think Chelsea at the moment. I think they're going to be not only a serious contender now, but you know their transfer window is looking like a serious transfer window. They've given Fat Frank the tools. I'm
sick and tired of Chelsea. You know, just when you think they've gone back to being a spend their own money club that's got some, spends what they earns, and suddenly, 200 million in the transfer window when everyone else is fucking skint. Yeah, pisses me off, Chelsea. But I agree with you, Max. I think Chelsea and Newcastle are my two, and I'm going to go Chelsea. Underperformers in the Premier League transfer market. West Ham United.
So I wrote down West Ham as well.
Max, we're singing for the same sheet. Liam, did you write anything down for this one? How many did you write down, Liam?
Did we say underperformance for the transfer market, or because I took that as being the season?
Okay, I'm only reading what I've got here. PL underperformers. Oh, is that not the transfer market? Then is that just the underperformers this year?
Well, that's how I read it. Stick with it then, West Ham.
I was going to say, doesn't change my mind. It's West Ham United.
Well, I did actually think West Ham, but then I went, no, because I think they'll do crap, and that's not really underperforming if they still do crap. I actually went for Leeds. I don't quite get all the fuss over Bielsa. I think they're signing players that don't make a lot of sense. Rodrigo, for example, their striker. I'm not quite sure how he fits into a typical Bielsa side, so I think they'll struggle more than people think. I don't think they're going to do as well as everyone thinks they will.
Okay. Arsenal's breakthrough player.
Where did I put that? I noted it somewhere. Come back to me. I've got to find it.
Emil Smith-Rowe.
I think this is three we've agreed on now.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's seen the size of him, but how big he's gone. But he is now on a full-blown adult frame. He looks like a monster. He's got an ass like a Wobie.
Yeah, well, where you said earlier that you've been banging on about Maitland-Niles, I saw Smith-Rowe in his early days, and I just think he's got everything. He seems to be both-footed. He drifts into those positions behind the back too. He plays between the lines. He's got a bit of vision, and it was just whether or not he's going to come on or not. And you don't know.
And he's a proper South Londoner as well.
Yeah, so you just don't know how they're going to develop. But I really liked him. Every time I've seen him, I thought he's really got something about him. So I'm hoping he's going to be our breakthrough player. And he may have to go out on loan to do that, but I still think he's going to be a superstar for us. Liam?
Yeah, I agree. I went for Smith-Rowe as well.
Okay. PFA Young Player of the Year.
I went for Mason Greenwood. I think he'll get a lot more starts at Man United this season. I think he'll score quite a few goals. He looks, I hate to say it, but a bloody good player. So yeah, Mason Greenwood.
So I wrote down Saka ? Because he will still be a young player, won't he? Even though he's not a rookie.
Yeah, but this is the league's player of the year. Yeah.
Well, I fucked that up then, haven't I? I have to come back to you, Darren.
But to be honest, you can't say you come back to me because I'm only looking at these for the first time now, so I'm making it up. I'm going to go.
I blame Tezza for his inception.
He's listening, by the way. He's just. It was underperformed. Yeah. Tony and Tez are both listening. No, I'm not writing anything down. But yeah, it was underperformance. I would say that I'm going to go for Foden at Manchester City. I think that could be his year this year. If he stops shagging his way around the world. What an idiot he is. What an idiot. But I think he could be something special this year as a young player of the year. Sorry, Max, did you come back with one there while I was reading the comments?
I'll have a think. Darren. I'll send it through.
Okay. Who's going to be the PFA player of the season? Liam, you got one?
I went De Bruyne. I think he's just the best player in the league. Can't see him stopping now. So yeah, De Bruyne.
Max?
I think it might be someone like Pulisic from Chelsea in that revamped team. I think there was a lot to like about him at the end of the season, and he could be a serious player. That has replacement.
Okay, I'm going to go for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. When he scored 35 goals this season, I think that it will be such an easy choice for everyone. What else we got? Who's going to win the Golden Boot this year?
Oba.
I went Aubameyang as well.
Okay, that's three of us. Obviously, I can't change it, and I've only just thought of Aubameyang for the player of the year. Okay, who's going to win the League Cup this year? Whatever. Who's sponsoring the League Cup this year? Is it Carabao still? Is it Carling, Brumbelows? It was the Milk Cup back in the day. Who's going to win the League Cup this year?
I went with Chelsea.
Liam?
I went Liverpool.
Okay, I'm going to go Arsenal. It's about time we did it. We've got a very good backup young squad. I think we'll get through to the semis or the final. And Arteta just doesn't lose when we get to Wembley. So it's got to be Arsenal. Who's going to win the FA Cup this year, Liam?
Chelsea, I said.
I went with Man U.
Well, I'm going to go with Arsenal. Fuck me, who else wins the FA Cup? We win every fucking year throughout the last 5. It's our turn again. Come on. What's the matter with you two miserable bastards, Chelsea and Manchester United? It's the FA Cup. It's ours. It's what we do. Okay. Europa League winner.
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
I actually think we're a real good chance at Europa League.
Who's the other English team in it? Is it Manchester United? Oh no, Leicester, isn't it? Leicester and Wolves. Are they in it?
Tottenham have to come through some team no fuckers ever heard of as well.
Okay, I'm gonna go Arsenal. Liam?
Yeah, I went Arsenal because I don't actually know who else is even in it.
Okay, so we've got to choose the runner-up. So Tottenham. Nice Europa League final.
Wouldn't it?
I'll go with Sevilla coming back down.
Honestly, I just wrote fuck knows because I don't know who's going to come down from the. I don't know who's going to come down from the Champions League. I don't even know who's in it this year. I ain't got a fucking clue if I'm honest.
So who is going to win the Champions League final and against who? Max, who have you got for that one?
Bayern against Juventus.
Okay. I've got Bayern against Manchester City.
I went the same as Max, Bayern against Juve.
Okay, good. That one's easily done. Then we get into the big one, the Premier League. Relegation. Who's the 3 you got going down,
Liam? Brighton, Fulham, West Brom.
So have I.
In no particular order.
I had West Ham, West Brom, Brighton.
Okay, you think Fulham will stay up? And I went Fulham, West Brom, and Brighton as well. Let's start top 6. Let's go in 6th place. Who you got for 6th place, Liam?
I went Leicester.
Okay,
Leicester.
I'm having to think about this one. Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea. I'm going to go Tottenham Hotspur. 5th place. Liam?
Chelsea.
Ooh.
I don't
Arsenal.
think they're going to do anywhere near as well as they'll do.
I went with Arsenal.
Arsenal, 5th?
Yeah, improvement.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I'm going to go in 5th place, Manchester United. Dum, 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 dum. Top 4. Liam, who have you got in 4th place in the Premier League?
Arsenal.
Okay. Max?
Man U.
Okay. I'm going to go for Chelsea. I mean, we should talk about this. Why are you who you got there, Max? Did you say Manchester United?
I've got Man U. Yeah, in 4th.
Do you think they're better than us?
No, but I think they've been together for a bit longer, and I think there's definitely, even if signings come in, there's going to be a betting in period for those signings. And like I said, the team didn't perform phenomenally for Arsenal last season. All this will change if we make midfield signings. All this will change if we make one poignant midfield signing. I'll immediately put us, at least pressing for the top 4, being in the mix.
Liam, who you got 3rd?
3rd, I went Man United.
Max?
3rd, I actually went with Liverpool. Liverpool are due dropping off a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3rd with Arsenal. Normally put them to win it, but I actually think that's just pushing it a bit, that we're going to win the Europa League, the League Cup, the FA Cup and the Premier League. So I'm going to go 3rd with that. Liam, who you got 2nd place?
2nd, I've got Liverpool.
Okay, Max? You must be
Chelsea. Chelsea are my big movers.
I'm going to go Liverpool just because I think they're going to hang on. I think they're a bit better than us still, but just about. And then, so Liam, you must have Manchester City. Max, you must have Manchester City, and I must have Manchester City as well. Yeah,
it's got to be Pep's last roll of the dice. Yeah, it's all or nothing for him now.
So looking at that, I mean, I've got Arsenal at 3rd. Now, I know I'm a very positive Arsenal fan, but my thinking behind it's not just pure heart. My thinking behind it is I think Manchester City are the best team in the league, and I think Liverpool were about 150 points better than us last year. So we're going to struggle to make that gap up. But then you have to look at the others: Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham, Leicester, all those other teams. And I just looked at it and I think, well, what Arteta's done in such a short space of time, we've all said that our biggest problems are the centre backs and central midfield. Well, we've covered 2 of those things. The way that Arteta, his acceleration curve improving us, just makes me think that Mourinho's dead. Leicester have just sold one of their best players, and Vardy's a year older. I think we're better. I think Arteta is better than Solskjaer, and I think that will show. So that just leaves us and Chelsea for me. And I think, if I'm honest, Chelsea have signed some really good players. I'm just hoping that Frank Lampard just turns out to be a bit of a twat, and he was very lucky last year, because I don't see anything like I'm seeing in Arteta. They're terrible at the back. They didn't improve all season. He's had a bit longer in management, and I don't think he's good enough. And I think he will be the first manager to be sacked this year, which is why I've got him on 3rd. Max, do you want to justify your 6th?
Yeah, look, City at the top, because I think it really is now or never for Pep with the job that he came in, the amount of money they've spent. They're going to spend a lot more money as well in this season. At Chelsea, big movers, I just think they've gone and they've splashed the cash. And we've seen Chelsea's history is that they are a bit of a yo-yo team. If they have a down season, they don't tend to spend a very long time down. Liverpool I put in 3rd just because I think that not all good things come to an end, but I think there's a hunger that comes from a team who hasn't had success, and Liverpool has had so much success now. Surely they've got to go out, drink too much champagne, do too much blow, act like wankers and fuck up the start of the season or something like that. Man U, I put above us, like I said, just because I think that there's continuity there, and I think that they will improve. I think there's talk that Sancho's on his way now. Their shares have gone up. Last time their shares went up, it was right before they signed Pogba. So I'm expecting them to make some kind of really, really big signing. Arsenal, as long as that midfield is in place, I don't believe we're a top 4 team. I don't believe that you can deliver a top 4 team with the midfield options that we have. It's what stopped us last season. It's what will stop us again this season. But the caveat there being, if we make a midfield signing, whether it's, Aurora or whether it's Party. It's got to be someone of high caliber. And Leicester, just because fuck Tottenham. I didn't want them in the top 6, so I picked someone else.
None of us mentioned Wolves either. Tony just commented, nobody's mentioned Wolves. Do you think Wolves are going to just drop away now? Liam?
Yeah, I toyed between them and Leicester for 6th. I'm not sure I'm seeing much different with Wolves. I'm not sure what I'm seeing, what they're doing in the market. I know Leicester have just lost Ben Chilwell, but they seem to have replaced him. They normally recruit very well. I don't see Vardy slowing down. I know he's another year older, but he keeps going, a bit like Aubameyang, just keeps going. So, yeah, I think Leicester will pip Wolves to it.
I can see Wolves finishing 8th or 9th because I think that Everton are going to be up there. You would imagine that the shit down the road are going to be somewhere around up there. So it's going to be an interesting battle from 10th to 6th, really. There's a bee's dick between those teams.
I think as well, Wolverhampton Wanderers played with the same group of players for 2 seasons pretty much now, without adding to the squad, without having that depth. And they've been incredibly lucky with injuries. They just haven't, we've had 4 or 5 players out at a time. I think if that happens to Wolves, which it will do, it's got to, statistics will show that eventually those players cannot play every week, two times a week. They're back in the Europa League. They're going to, they've only just finished the season now, haven't they? They're starting a week late this year. They're going to have a real lot of games in a real short space of time. And I think it will find them out. But Max, what about if they sign Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
Well, I mean, if the reports are true, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is going nowhere, and I think that's something to celebrate for Arsenal fans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's a Fulham preview show. We talked about Fulham. What's I think did I give my prediction? I think I'm going to go 4-0 this year. I was going 5-0 all last season, but I think I was a bit over enthusiastic. But I do think that Arteta seems to have sorted us out at the back, and I don't see how anyone with a lineup of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, Willian, Saka is not going to scare the shit out of everybody in the Premier League. And if they can't break away and score against us, which a lot of teams did last year, and now we've learned to sit and have a way of playing against the top 6, fuck me, we're going to win the league. Can I change my prediction, Tez? You guys got anything else to add before we call it a night?
No. I popped up on my Twitter feed yesterday, that I just hope that Arsenal fans are capable of accepting the good with the bad this season. I don't think it was ever going to be a 1-window fix. I think it's going to be a 3-window fix, and we're going to have to take what we get. Improvement is all we're looking for. Squad improvement, Arteta improvement, and locking down key assets like Aubameyang, like we have, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like we have, onwards and upwards. But patience is the key.
Yeah, but patience isn't something that comes with Arsenal supporters, is it? I mean,
No.
The toys will be out of the Prem. If we lose on Saturday, the toys will be out of the Prem. Arteta will be a cunt. And, Pepe's a waste of money. It will be that. It's that sort of instant reaction. I'm a very positive supporter. I'm looking forward to this season because I think I wasn't an Arteta fan. I thought it was a strange appointment to sign somebody with no managerial experience to a team, that's Arsenal. You don't sign somebody who's never done the job before. And I've been hugely impressed with the way he's performed. I'm also disappointed that he can't get Mesut Ozil and Guendouzi. Can't sort those problems out. I mean, that's a failing in management. And as you say, Max, he's got to learn. He's got to get better. Liam, we never mentioned Mesut Ozil in the talk. He played in the last couple of friendlies. Do you not see him featuring at all on Saturday?
I think in a way he kind of has to, just because we don't have midfielders at the moment. Actually, it was kind of a relief not to mention Mesut for once. I quite like not having to think about this Ozil situation for a change. I think he'll be involved on Saturday just because we need midfielders. But
you think he'll be cutting up the oranges or something?
Possibly.
Do you still cut up oranges on a Sunday morning? I don't know. I haven't played football for a long time. All right, guys. Well, look, we've been going for an hour and a half. That's always far too long, in my opinion, for a podcast. Max, it's been great to meet you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. It's been lovely to be on.
Thanks for getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing this podcast. And I don't know if anyone can see your face on this, but you look like shit.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. Absolute pleasure. And thanks to the boys, and Thanks for Tez for giving me a run off the bench. I feel like Mesut Ozil. I'm bored in from the cold. And can I just say before we go, fuck Mesut Ozil. I hope he never kicks the ball for Arsenal again.
Yeah, I've been on record as saying that myself. Liam, thanks for coming on, mate.
No, thank you for having me back.
I mean, who else would I take the piss out of? I didn't know, Max. Right, and if you want to catch us, you can catch Max at Arse Bros Brent. How'd you say it, Max?
Arse Bros. We're the Arsenal brothers. So we're brothers in Arse. We're like a Dodgy Dire Straits song.
Okay, I'll look at that, and I look forward to listening to you. Are you back podcasting? Is that back up?
Yeah, first one's tomorrow night. So 4 shows on the Arse Bros this year. There's our own preview show, just for a bit of fun. I've got someone else doing a preview show on mine. I'm on a preview show on yours. Me and Toby will do the Arse Bros OG, which is the post game. We've got the monthly review show. And then we've got a cup show with Ryan, who's on with Same Old Arsenal now as well. Spreading our wings and flying, mate.
Good. I look forward to listening to that. Liam, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, Groningen. Groningen's just the city I live in. It's a pain in the arse to spell. Don't
You're not
worry.
Get any extra followers, are you?
No, don't worry. I'm not sure I'm worth following in the first place.
I know I've got lots of people who listen to me in India. I'll need to change mine. I keep forgetting. I don't do a lot on Twitter, but I'm at Delhi Guna because I was living in Delhi. But Delhi's easy to spell. So, that's around there. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. You can catch us up and look forward to Tez and Tony will be back next week. I think with Jack next week. They're going to be doing the review show, I think probably on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So look out for that. If you haven't been listening to us live, thanks for downloading and we will see you all next week.